is when you don't try.
Hello everyone, I'm Veer Mishra and you're listening to the TVV Show episode 3. And like always, we have three amazing tech leaders in the travel space. Gavin Smith, who is the director at TMC, which is Element Technology, Nikunj, founder of Zenmer, and Ruhani, founder of Vilasa. So Gavin, first we'll start with you, right? You are the eldest one in the group, and
Thanks.
if you can actually go around introducing yourself so that the listeners can know what you're doing.
Sure. I'm Gavin Smith. I'm director of one of the directors of Element Travel Technology. We're a value-added reseller of travel technology to small to medium-sized TMCs. My background is 25 years in travel, from being a tour guide through to working at American Express, Concur, HRS, and other TMCs. And then we started Element in October last year.
Awesome. So as I can see, most of us, at least actually all of you, you have a long history in travel background. Ruhani, coming to you, you are also a second generation travel entrepreneur.
That's correct.
Right. So I remember we met first at Innovate, which was, I think you were interning with Style.me. Right. So how did the journey go, from interning into a fashion startup to actually doing what your roots are from?
Right. I think that's a great question. So when I was in 2016, I was still at uni at the University of Bristol studying psychology. Was in Delhi for a couple of months, decided an internship will be good just so I can increase my skill set, because there's always something to learn. So travel is my family business, just like you mentioned that I'm the second generation who's taking over. Vilasa's parent company is Minar Group. We've been in business for 28 years now. During my time in UK, so that's about 3 years, where I spoke to a lot of people about travel when they found out, okay, that's what my family does. And there were a lot of questions or comments surrounding India. And that's when I realized that there is a gap in the market in terms of experiential travel. Even if I were to look at my own company, which is Minar Group, we were not offering the type of experiential travel that I saw a very big scope for in the market. And I pitched the idea for Vilasa in 2015. And it's been 5 years now. So in those 5 years, we've grown the number of products that we offer. We've grown our clientele, and we've made a positive impact with the locals that we involve in our journeys. So yeah, that's that.
That's awesome. Most of the people don't know that, like me and Nikunj, we go way long back. We were in school together. We've done a lot of crazy stuff together, right? So obviously I don't need any introduction, but Nikunj, if you can actually give the introduction to all the listeners.
It's been 20 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more than 20 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably, I think he's one of my best friends, very close together. Our first two startups we've done together.
Yeah.
So as far as my background, currently I'm running a corporate SaaS company called Zenmer. So we develop corporate online booking tools for TMCs as well as corporates in India. Now, with the help of Gavin, we also work together pretty well now since May with Element. So with the help of him, his company, we are expanding into the UK and the other European markets as well. So what we necessarily do is that if you see any consumer today, which is booking on, let's say, Make My Trip or Expedia and all these other B2C platforms, the corporates are not necessarily using those platforms. They need much more advanced policy compliance and approvals within their companies to make sure that the cost center is solid. So that's where we bring in that ERP enterprise solution out of travel booking and present that to corporates and TMCs. So we've been working with Indian TMCs and corporates since last 2 years now, and we've been doing close to 500 to 1,000 transactions a day, and just expanded, as I said, in the UK. And hopefully, if there was no COVID, we would be at least with one client with the help of Gavin now doing some kick-ass work. But nevertheless, you always sort of reset, reflect, learn more things, find more things in your armory, and sort of come back stronger.
Yeah,
so,
we're working on something together at the moment. So
Yeah,
Exactly.
that should be
Exactly.
great. And before this, I've been into, so I brought my father's business online, which is Air Hob. So we used to do B2B travel as well as our developers API. So we have around 35 to 40 startups out of India who use our APIs for flights, hotels, international trains. So we sort of aggregated all of the major APIs and sort of lower the cost of API integration for young startups. And before that, I was involved with My Window with Veer very closely together, and that was a digital payments and social startup. Before that, I was into filmmaking. We used to develop short films, documentaries, and corporate teasers again with Veer. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's about me.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So, Nikunj, as you brought up the topic about the COVID and the aftermath that's going to happen now, Gavin,
Yeah.
what in your opinion, is the what you can say the impact that the travel industry has faced? Because I'm sure, there are a lot of startups who are trying to do something on travel. As also Nikunj mentioned, there are 30 to 45 developers who are using his tool right now to enable people to book tickets and etc. So, what in your opinion is gonna be the aftermath? Whenever this is over, or whenever we start the traveling back we were traveling in normal, or whatever the new normal will be, right? How it's gonna impact the industry now?
Well, yeah, I think we all know what the impact is currently, which is
Yeah.
there's pretty much no one. Well, there is people flying. For example, the US never stopped flying.
Yeah.
They've been flying internally the whole way through. I think it's about confidence, cleanliness, and government. It's more the geopolitical landscape. I think that's going to impact what's happening than the actual virus itself. Because until governments work out what they want to do, and because of the nature of India's going through a bit of a resurgence. I'm sure the UK is going to have a problem. South Africa's got issues, even Zimbabwe, so as you're going through your winter, it's all coming up. So until we can get some agreement on how you can and enter and not enter and whatever, I think it's going to be difficult. I think, internal travel is still going to continue within a lot of countries. In the UK, people are still going to go on holiday to a hotel because they can. They may not necessarily go to Europe. People are going. But will we see, from a corporate perspective, it is going to be very different, because I think what the last 4 months has shown is that we can do what we're doing. We're having virtual calls, which is, I was just speaking to my wife yesterday. I've been doing conference calls since, I don't know, 2005. And when I started, there was no video. And so I never do video, but everybody who's just started now jumps on video. But we've proved that internally, the internal functions can still perform without having to meet. And I think that's where the drop in corporate travel is going to be, is around internal travel within the company. But sales, account management, people who need to go and, I don't know, fix a nuclear plant or sort out a train or whatever will still continue to travel. So I see a lot of restrictions, a lot less of that happening in the corporate side. And then, leisure will come back as people gain confidence and countries open up and whatever, and those kind of things. And, it's all based on individual country and versus, I suppose, your appetite for risk, if you're going to go there or not.
Exactly. So, Ruhani and Nikunj, whoever can actually highlight on this point, as a startup, there are always there are n number of struggles that we go through. But, during this COVID aftermath, what has been the trickiest situation you guys have been into, at least in past 3-4 months? What has been the trickiest situation?
Sure. So what I think is, since we are doing startups and are young, under the 30, I mean, what we've seen is we've not actually gone through such recessions, in our own business. That's the funniest thing. And, the uncertainty of this is really interesting. Because a lot of the problems in startups, what I feel is, we can envisage, okay, the sales are not gonna come for at least 2 months, 3 months. We can, take actions, and everything is sort of seems like in our control. But then when COVID happens, nothing is in our control. It's like a God's act kind of a thing, right? So I think that is the main thing, which the uncertainty bit of it, which really scares you sometimes. So I think, but it's good that I think if you've been in a startup environment for a while with a few startups, you've been through problems and hurdles and have overcome it. So it's sort of easy to like go through it. But then still, I think in March we were expecting it to open up in June, July, and then
Yeah.
now we're not even expecting to open up in September. And
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
it opens up, nobody's going to travel. So the uncertainty of it is really interesting. So that's what I feel.
Yeah. About you, Ruhani, what has been the trickiest situation?
I actually agree with a lot of what Nikunj said, because just like he said, as a startup, we do go through a lot of hurdles, but COVID will be a black swan. The way that it's unfolded, the impact that we're seeing across various industries, not just travel. So COVID, in my opinion, is a black swan. There's no denying that. And while businesses are shutting down, there are other businesses which are taking birth right at this moment as we speak. So that does excite me. What we as a brand face, because with Vilasa, I've always sort of emphasized customer experience a lot. You know that because you know the motto as well, right?
Exactly.
Where we always talk about site feeling. So it's a whole ecosystem that's involved with the client at the center of it. So right now, I think if you look at psychological factors like empathy and fear, Gavin mentioned fear when he was talking, that there's going to be a general perception of fear when it comes to travel. So what are the ways that we're going to counter that? Can we sort of count on herd mentality when it comes to countering fear, where people see some sort of movement gaining traction and then they can follow through? At the same time, we as a brand have to be empathetic. So it cannot just be outright promotion, left, right, and center, saying, oh, we're doing price freezes, pay now, stay later. I'm seeing a lot of the big brands do this. And I'm also seeing a lot of backlash coming from the customers and the consumers, because it is a difficult time for everybody. So how do you strike the right balance between being empathetic while also serving content, products, services that your consumer will value and may consider once all of this settles down a bit? So I feel like my struggle, moreover, since we work with a very niche clientele, more of it has to do with their mindset and what I can do to make them comfortable.
In a report yesterday, I saw that there are 35 startups who were heavily funded in India with more than $760 million in funding. Right? They all shut down in past 3 months, and that's and that's a huge graveyard. Thousands of jobs and everything that happened. How does a corporate or a startup actually navigate themselves through such an era?
Well, this is the first time I'm doing my stuff in terms of running the business. A lot of it is around patience. You have to have patience. You have to ride it through. I think that businesses that are shutting down, whether they be newly formed businesses or long-standing businesses, I think there were inherent problems with that business before this happened, and so you look at retail in the UK, it's inherently been really poor in terms of how they support stuff. So retail is taking a hammering. Startups that are having their funding pulled is probably because there was more. The funders thought might be a good idea, so let's see how it goes. And then they're now really looking at their portfolios and going, actually, is this a viable business? And they probably decided it's not, and so they're pulling it. Starting a business during a recession is not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it helps you focus. The last few months we've really focused on what do we do as a business, how are we going to do it. We've actually used the time to create some new products. Like I said, between Nikunj's business and our business, we've come up with an idea that we think will really work well to support travel management companies and their service offering type thing. And it's only because of the current situation that we thought about it and how things. So you sort of have to adapt. You have to have a lot of patience, and only worry about what you can control. We can't control when travel will come back, but manage your costs, do what you need to do, and you'll come out of it okay. I think, because you're nimbler, you're smaller, you don't have massive overheads. Our overheads are effectively, paying, we pay one salary. I'm not taking, various things. So you can reduce your overheads, whereas big businesses got offices that are now sitting empty that they're paying rents on and all that kind of stuff. It's tough.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think, what you talked about patience is actually one of the key things. Nikunj, you'll be able to relate to this. We'll listen to Gary Vaynerchuk a lot, and he talks about one thing, which is micro patience and macro passion. That's actually pretty interesting because as a startup, you've got to have patience in every activity you do, right? And just drive through the macro passion force that you have for the macro picture. That's true. Yeah. So, Nikunj, what's your opinion on this? You must have seen, as a startup, even we are actually have introduced a pay cut and etc. So, what's your take on the current situation with, the current economic downfall?
Oh, well, to be very honest, as far as my startup is concerned, I have not done a pay cut now because my startup mostly consists of developers, and they've been developing day in day out, and it seems like this is not the first time we've gone through a problem. So I've been through way more bigger issues where there were no clients, and I was running around convincing my team, okay, your salaries are getting delayed, but then you have to stay on because we are going to make it. And so we've been through situations where we have not been able to pay salaries on time, and we've come through that. And so I think as far as the economic downturn is concerned, I totally understand that, a business's cash flow depends on the money it brings in, and because there's no money coming in, there has to be pay cuts. So it's very difficult to answer for each business on, what's true, what's not true, because if you think businesses like Make My Trip or Oyo or even Hertz, that company got bankrupt, and at the outset, without these crises, these companies look solid. They look the poster child version of the startups that are successful. But then when times like these come, that's when the real picture comes out of the cash flow, because that's the funny thing about startups and investment world, right? We never see the real picture of what's the inside story. We only hear the venture side of it, venture capital, wow, this, funding alerts and all those sorts of things. But I'm sure these things, these problems are already there in startups and companies. I know it's like salary cuts and, sales cycle issues and all these things. It's just that you get more exposed when these things happen. And it's like, because it's the new normal, people are good, and it's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
I think it from that perspective, to be very honest.
That's true. That's true. Ruhani, what's your take on this? Is your enterprise facing something something similar that most of the startups are going through, and what's your take on how you want to how you aim to actually navigate through the current situation?
So I think we've taken on a couple of strategies onto how we plan to navigate. Of course, like Gavin mentioned, that when it comes to travel, I don't want to throw the baby out of the bathwater just yet. So I don't want to travel. I don't want to abandon travel as a whole. But on the other hand, what this pandemic has also taught us is that the company who's agile and the company who's lean is able to pivot in a manner which is super helpful. So I'll give you an example. There was a travel company in New York, which of course faced what all of us are facing. And they pivoted their business model and became an agency which was specifically catering to the travel needs of nurses, given that a lot of nurses were needed in New York. So they became that sort of agent and the go-to person. I'm seeing a lot of similar pivots happen in the event industry as well. So I think that was a good reflection for us to have. That made me look at the assets we have. Vilasa has always preferred to be a very asset-light company. And yes, salary cuts have been there. So the way we've done salary cuts in my firm is that they've been top-down. So the directors haven't taken a salary for the past 3 months, and we're trying to help and support our team as much as we can. But the good part is that my team, who probably has a lot more experience than I do in the industry, understands the depth and the gravity of what we're facing. So while on one hand, we're being patient, we're coming up with strategies as to how we can be better in the future, anticipate what's going to be the new normal, strengthen relationships with our clients, with our B2B partners. And on the other hand, we're also looking at small pivots that we can make. So, for example, the charter industry, the private charter industry is expected to see an increase because high net worth individuals might opt for charters more now, given safety, given time concerns, given permits, restrictions. So that is a very small pivot that I, at the moment, am able to afford. So I guess that's how we're going, because at the end of the day, just like Nikunj mentioned, there is no cash flow coming in. So there has to be something. Gavin,
But
you
are you?
laughed.
Yeah, I know. But are you guys seeing any stuff picking up? Because I am in this week, well, basically the last 2 weeks, I'm sort of seeing from a UK perspective, people are actually wanting to talk about sales and things, whereas, you know, April, May, pretty much most of June, nobody wanted to talk. And you know, we're starting to see quite a bit of interest coming in. Are you guys seeing the same thing?
Gavin, do you mean from a leisure perspective, or do you mean from a
No, I
corporate
just mean
perspective?
actually. So you know, we sell technology. One of the technologies we sell is Nikunj's tool, and you know, the owners of TMCs and that kind of stuff weren't really wanting to talk because I think they were going through their staffing issues. Now they recognize that this is going to go longer than they thought, and so we're actually getting inbound interest from people wanting to talk about our services and things, which is positive. So I know on the travel side, no, but if you think about from a B2B perspective, are you seeing stuff coming around from a business to business, not necessarily traveler?
I think, Gavin, that's a great question, to be honest. So like I said, when this started, I mentioned empathy, and I didn't want to just barge my B2B partners left, right, and center, knowing that they themselves are suffering. But there are some countries which are picking up now. So France, for example, we work with a couple of lovely traveler made and virtuoso companies in France. So there, yes, we're starting to see that sort of movement where they can start promoting, let's say, India as a destination for 2021 at least. And what the benefit that we can offer right now is, first, we can negotiate better with hotels at the moment, given the current situation. So it can be a mutual support system for a lot of partners involved in the ecosystem. So I was super skeptical about going to my partners and be like, hey, would you like to promote India? Because I'm like, they're just gonna shut the door on my face, man, and they're never gonna work with me again. So empathy has been a very big theme. And to that point, Gavin, there have been so many refunds that we've had to do, some of which we were able to get, but some which we've also done outside of our pocket. Because at the end of the day, I mentioned that we're very tight on customer experience. It's not something I'm going to compromise on. And that was the time where there were people who could not get a reply from the airlines, from your Make My Trips, from your Oyos, from your Yatras. And I feel like that is where they realize the value of a travel designer as well, to have the value of having a local DMC on board.
That's true. That's true. But I think in general, the B2B segment right now, I think in past at least 3-4 weeks, like, you know, even we have started receiving, like, you know, some inbound requests, like even like, you know, from government, like, you know, we've filed 2 tenders these days, like in past 3 weeks.
Correct.
Right. So I think now even government is actually looking for technology specifically, you know, that can enable them to actually at least navigate through this current time. And and like, you know, one thing that you actually mentioned, Ruhani, was like, you know, pretty interesting, which is about pivoting, right? If I talk about like the last at least 8-10 years, like, you know, in my experience, and even Nikunj can actually relate, in past 8-10 years, we have gone through multiple pivots. Like, you know, multiple pivots. Like I remember, like, you know, doing some crazy things, like back in Nagpur. Like, you know, we pivoted, like, you know, what, 3-4 times before we actually hit a product market fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think
you're the pivot masters.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have to change. I think, you know, and that was one thing I was told when I started this thing with you, is that, you know, what you think you're going to do, you may not end up doing that.
Exactly.
And yes, we are still doing what we set out to do, but I'm always conscious that, you know, if you need to be conscious of going, actually, is it right? And if somebody else is saying do something, don't be scared to actually have a look at it and change, because I think you've got a greater chance of failing if you don't take that on than taking it on. Because one thing we all have at the moment is time, and you can listen and talk to a lot of people and understand stuff. And that's, I think, from a startup perspective, while there may be no cash flow, you've got there's various things to do, but getting out and talking to people to understand what is going on, not necessarily in your network, even in your sector, is really important, because we won't have this time again, because when it gets back to being busy, you're going to be too focused on doing your job.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
also, I wanted to add something to that. Gavin, I think the fact that you said, we are seeing some activity there. And what I think also, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's also, I think that people have started to figure out what is it that you can present a new thing, on top of what you already have. Like Ruhani said it very well, that pivoting. So that's what it is, So like we are also figuring out to build something new for the new normal, So I think wherever companies are starting to get leads, or they're starting to pitch in, I'm sure they're figuring out things that supports the new future ahead. So I think that's the model out there. That would get people leads now.
I think just to add on to that, Nikunj, so one of the things that we're also experimenting with to gauge market interest has been the type of journeys that they'd like to see further. So we earlier had a misconception that wellness would only be restricted to clients coming in from, let's say, Russia, because they're a super big market when it comes to wellness. And I think now what is super interesting for me, especially as a psychology student, so I've always had a very holistic idea of wellness, which I don't see travel companies offer very often. So it's always that, that yoga, then you wake up at like 6 a.m. and then and that's all very physical oriented. We're not looking at a holistic overview of wellness. So I thought that this will be a super good time to experiment the type of customer response that we can get, whether our customers would even like to go on trips like that. So, and we did something super simple, man. So we just like had talks with them over Instagram. We sent out mailers, had a look as to how much interaction we got, spoke to our B2B partners as well to understand their clientele better. Because at the end of the day, for me, my customer and consumer are different. So my customer will be the B2B partner and my consumer is the traveler. So I think we could always use this time to pivot and actually test out that pivot, which like Gavin mentioned, when our day-to-day job resumes, I'm going to have an idea, but am I going to get the time to test it out and then make a final decision?
Exactly.
Probably not. So that's one thing that I feel like startups can do, where if they're debating new products or services, this is a really good time to test that out, because right now you have the customer's attention. People are watching IGTVs a lot on Instagram. I was reading this statistic day before yesterday. So it's now easier to get your consumers' attention rather than fighting for their time.
That's true. That's true. And I think, because we are actually on the topic of pivot, I think one last thing that I want to actually take opinions on, or actually talk about, is like, there are a lot of crazy things that we do as a startup, right? Most of the experiments that we try to run, and I'm sure there are a few experiments that we don't want to talk about right now because they're pretty early, right? But I've talked to you, Ruhani, there are certain things that you're trying to talk about, obviously we cannot mention those right now, but and similarly, Nikunj, we're talking about something from past a month now, right? So what is that one thing that you can talk about and probably mention that you are trying to do these days? Like it can be startup.
Nikunj, you and I can talk about, we've through an idea that I had that we are working with Nikunj and Zenma, is to provide a bit of technology that will help a travel agent or travel counselor in the corporate world manage the new processes that their corporate clients are going to put in place around travel. So the ability to, it's basically like a corporate policy engine that we're looking at building, where it'll say, yes, the company says the person can travel there, or no, they can't. And if they can, well, then this is what they need to do and everything. So it's really looking at managing financial and reputational risk on both sides of the TMC and the corporate, but also helping to manage that travel agent's mental well-being, because the anxiety is going to be massive on them in not interpreting written text and working out if they're doing the right thing or not. And that's what we really want to be able to help with. So that's something that we're doing. And we did some market research, and it should be going out across some publications starting today and potentially today, or at least next week, as ahead of us coming up with the stuff we're working on between us, you know. And I think we would never have thought about it, because we wouldn't, the need, what we're doing, the need wouldn't be there, but the need is now there. So
yeah, I think to even add a little more on what Gavin said, as he said, we're working on together. To put it in perspective from a travel company, when I'm talking to my clients, there are travel agencies in India that are focused on corporate travel. What they are saying is the calls that we receive now from corporates, they just ask us, oh, we want to travel from here to here. Are we allowed? Or not? Okay, if we are allowed, what are the things that we need to take care of? Is there a quarantine? Do we have to be home quarantine, or do we have to be at the airport directly to a center? So they don't know all these things, and all the data is sitting on the internet like Google links, and you have to go and read and assume. So as Gavin said, it's all assumption based. So what we are doing is we are trying to use the right data and put it into a proper readable one-line formats. So, okay, you are a US citizen, you want to go to UK, you will see, okay, can travel, cannot travel, wear a mask, so-and-so quarantine. I think I'm giving away a couple of things, Gavin, but then I think it's
look, like I said, the reason we're talking about it is because the market research that we did is being published today or next week. So, so that's in terms of being agile and thinking about what is the problem that we solve. And I think that's the key thing. Don't just think of an idea. Does it solve the problem? And are you helping people? Because, while yes, we'd like to make some money out of it, actually there is a benevolent part of what we're trying to do is to really help that travel counselor have a better mental health, because I can imagine them reading stuff and, they make a mistake. Someone travels somewhere where they shouldn't do, and, and say the person gets sick. Can you imagine being the person that made that booking? That's not nice.
Yeah, true. And maybe, do we have more time, or?
Yeah, I think just a couple of more minutes. Yeah. You can.
Cool. So I'll also just mention, if there are some travel agent listeners to us or to this podcast, when they listen, what I think is, I've been a part of small travel agents a lot. I've helped them get on a B2B platform with Air. What I've seen is 75% of travel agents, at least in India, they who are focused on leisure travel, at least, I think Ruhani would relate to this, that they are so much used to a copy paste format of itinerary management and quoting. Right? It's ridiculous. Like, you get a quote for, let's say, I want to travel to Singapore or UK or a European tour. They just mail it to their DMC. Right, Ruhani? They wait for a reply for 48 hours.
You can see my face.
Yeah, they just wait for 48 hours and they copy paste the quote, add their markup and send it away.
And send it away.
And this model is dead now. Like, I think the new normal is that you have to embrace new data. You have to use data and offer preferential personalization travel itineraries, like exactly what Ruhani was talking about. You have to now embrace that, the traveler will not listen to your copy paste formats. You will have to show them stuff like, okay, this hotel I'm going to travel to, does it have COVID policies in check? What is the checklist of the transport company that's going to transfer me from the Maldives airport to the actual resort? So Maldives has opened up, but then people are not going to travel if they trust the travel agent with all these kind of informations. And these information, that real data, is what we're actually trying to solve with, I think, Gavin together. And I'm sure other people will also be solving this. But I think that is the main key thing, that there's going to be a lot of companies that have to really think internally and see how can we use data to get people convinced to buy stuff from you. So the copy paste is done, like it's over. Yeah,
I think that's true. Her face says it all. Like, she knows like, what he was talking about.
I mean, we hate the fact that there's so many travel agents in competition, and what they do is just like copy paste stuff. I mean, it's destroyed this industry, to be very honest. Yeah, it's destroyed this industry, so it's good.
I think, so first of all, I think what Gavin, both you and Nikunj, what you're trying to create and what you're working on is super, super helpful. And I think it's a great idea. So congratulations and kudos on that. Because like you said, I mean, even if I am receiving queries, I have to be so thorough and do my homework, because I don't want my client traveling and there is something that, God forbid, I missed, and the client's just going to fire me left and right.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is super, super
And
helpful.
I think we've got a customer.
Yeah. We have.
Right here, Gavin. Right here.
I'm hearing buying signals there. I think we've got a customer.
I mean, no, we're getting in touch once this call is over, Gavin and Nikunj, FYI. And I think Nikunj, just to round up to what you said, you already saw the expression on my face when you were talking about what happens, and you said very rightly that the copy paste model is dead. And there are two big reasons for that. First reason, these companies are very used to operating in a time frame where, you know, the internet was not really there, or consumers were not really tech savvy, so their only platform of getting that information was a travel agent. Now you have so much information right at your fingertips. So it baffles me if companies think that they can follow a copy paste model, just add their markup and win with that. That's one. Second, personalization is key. I mean, I cannot even begin to imagine the amount of things that we use in our daily life which are personalized just for us, and we don't even realize it. So a very tiny step we took when we started personalizing trips was a simple questionnaire, man. So like, let's say Nikunj is traveling with us. So I send Nikunj in a questionnaire. I ask Nikunj basic things like what he likes, what he doesn't like, what was his best travel memory. When he travels, does he like to party? Does he like to chill? Does he like to spend time with his family? That gives me what is Nikunj's favorite beverage. So when Nikunj lands, I am standing there with his favorite beverage in my hand. And that small beverage makes all the difference. So yes, personalization is key. Developing authentic experiences is key. That's what we've been doing for the past 5 years.
I extremely sorry, Ruhani. I think Zoom messed up. Sorry, you were saying something. I think you were talking about the second point of yours.
I got so excited. I didn't realize the runtime.
No worries.
No, I'm pretty much done. I was just agreeing and elaborating on everything that Nikunj and Gavin mentioned, and I hope to take this forward with them. I mean, Gavin said he might have his first customer, so Gavin, you never know.
You never know, but saying what you're saying, and that copy paste and whatever, if you're not adding, I hate the word adding value, but if you are not doing something different that helps out in that, you are not going to get the business, because somebody else will. And if you know, when we look at our business and people approach us around maybe selling technology or doing stuff, we look at it and go, if we can't add something, if we can't do something with it that adds value to something else, somebody else, there's no point in us doing it. And actually, even in our sort of billing methodology, if we won't do something if we can't add value, and if we can't add value, then we're not going to charge you for it. You know, there's no point being a conduit backwards and forwards. That for us, that doesn't work. You need to be able to be adding something. So yes, you go to your DMC and you say, can you give me a quote? But then, like you said, you come back with that information that gives that person the confidence that they know what they. So basically, you want to give them the confidence to manage their own risk, to be able to make that trip, and that is what is going to be happening. It's not going to stop happening in September, October. It's going to be continuing through. So how do you manage people's appetite for risk and get them to understand that actually it is safe to do that, or this is what you need to do?
I think, and one thing that we talked about is copy pasting. Like, you know, day before yesterday, actually, Jio released a Zoom competitor called Jio Meet.
Wow.
Right. and like, I think that's a perfect example of copy pasting stuff. I mean, like, I'm sure, like, you know, like all the travel agents, they don't do that better job than what Jio actually did.
You know, Gavin, I'd like to brief you on this. Have you heard of Reliance? It's one of the biggest company in India. Yeah, so they in fact have just raised, I don't know, over $1 billion now from Facebook
122
and
billion.
other,
122
you know,
billion in 3
over
months.
$100 billion. And what they're trying to do is replicate the China model to India. Like they have their own version of WeChat, like WhatsApp
Right.
and
Okay, yeah.
Facebook and Zoom and everything. So they're expecting that India is going to go that route of everything is going to be make in India, make in India, make in India, right?
Yeah, I'm
So
seeing a lot of that because you stopped a lot of Chinese apps within the environment and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but I think that is to do with the problems that we're having with China at the political level.
Correct.
But then China has done that as a move, as a smart move since years, right?
Mm.
So what they've done is that they just recently launched an app called GeoMeet, okay, which is end to end an exact font to font, color to color, size to size replica of Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even the logo is same.
and
Even the logo is
the
same.
logo is same, and the entire country, the market, the startup cult, everybody is like, what?
Yeah.
Like, so that's why there was this laugh,
I
you
think,
know.
I
It's
think,
it's
like, I
crazy.
think the developers there, like in Geo, they probably got a design brief that, like, we have to create something like Zoom. They thought, like, why not create the entire Zoom itself?
And you know
Yeah,
what?
it's
I
interesting,
feel
in
that,
terms of
yeah,
how Zoom, I know we're using Zoom, but, conference calling's been around for ages. Cisco and
yeah,
Microsoft pretty much have the market on that. I don't use either of their tools. I actually use Zoho. The Zoho platform runs my
Yeah.
business, and I think it's amazing. But it's interesting how they influenced some of the changes that a lot of the tools made, because they realized actually we're a corporate, and now Zoom cleverly got the stay-at-home people because they made it simple.
Yeah.
Whereas the other guys were totally focused on corporate, and it was always a corporate environment because it was always paid for. So I think that's that's where they've gone. But I see, even like this now, once things change, I think Zoom's consumers, in terms of their people who sit at home and who've been using it, will disappear. And those paid plans will go, because they'll be back to work, they'll be in their office, they'll be doing stuff, and you'll be meeting face to face. And I think that's where they're going to struggle.
Yeah, I think I'll just, sorry, we'll again add on something to Gavin's point. Gavin, I always had this thought, and feel free to give your opinion. Like, I always had this thought that imagine something like Concur or Citric, all these platforms, like even Zenmer. It is being such like, it is used with so much of like, involves so much time of a traveler and an employee to use that platform, and like approvals and policies and bookings and everything. So it's almost like a ERP, but for travel. There are other ERPs like HRMS and other things. But imagine if such tools itself add these capabilities of video conferencing and chat, which is not now difficult to build because of so many APIs and widgets coming along. So imagine someone like Zoom sitting there with only one capability. I know the power of niche is always there, but then still imagine that already there's a SaaS platform in an enterprise, let's say Concur or Zenmer, and they have this capability where already the profile data is there. Now imagine there's already that entire profile data within the HRMS systems, and connect that just with chats and with video conferencing. So I think that the power of this could be huge, right? I mean, I always think about
I
that.
agree with you. I think that it is a very, again, so we sell to the B2B market. So it's understanding how a business communicates internally. And if you can ensure that how they can communicate with you works in the way that they communicate internally, you're onto something. And that, to a certain extent, should have the ability of not necessarily a phone, but a video, be able to do a video call with your accounts with that person who's doing that offline booking for you. Why would you not want to do it in this day and age? But maybe the travel council will have to smarten up a bit, because they're generally office bound and they're wearing jeans and a t-shirt. But I think it's a good thing. And if you look at how, in a corporate perspective, how a TMC expects a corporate to communicate with them, it actually doesn't replicate how they communicate internally. Most TMCs don't even know what Slack is. They don't even know what instant message, any form of instant messaging.
Yeah.
And you just go, huh? And so how are you not opening up that type of environment to your corporate to allow them to communicate with you? So whether they use Click, Slack, Teams, whatever, why have you not got that? Why must they send you an email or make a phone call? Or, if they want to communicate with you. So Ruhani, something that you think about in your business when you're speaking to people, maybe on the phone or not, but thinking about the ability to have that telephone number, but also be a video conference number that's individual to each agent, so that people can talk to them. I think managing that risk and getting them when they talk to someone will probably help convert more bookings for you, because you're removing that anonymous piece of, it's a telephone call, yes, but when I see somebody, why not?
100%, Gavin, I agree. And especially considering, I mean, at the moment, this could be a model which could work really well for us. So we do, I mean, the B2B partners that we work really closely with, we've been talking on video calls ever since, I mean, even before COVID, because like you said, having that sort of face-to-face connect, I think it's so much easier to, you know, understand, build trust. And I think as a psychology student, for me to read body language, so I know how to pitch. So videos are non-negotiable.
Yeah, I was just saying, but you actually think of travelers, you know, I think that ability and because because the way these are set up is that it's not, you know, yes, you have, you know, you have you could do it over WhatsApp, or you could do it over iMessage or whatever. But that's what I think is what you want, is that ability to, you know, I'm the travel counselor, the person phones me, but it's a video call and we have a discussion around what they want. So I think that would be a good way of doing things, but
I think that's a fabulous idea, to be honest. I think that's a great idea. So whether it's B2B or B2C, let's say you have a quick question or you have a problem, and then you can just hop on a video call on a platform which is unified. So it's not like you're using a secondary platform to make that video call. I think that's a fabulous idea, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure you all are aware how Amazon is also experimenting with Alexa now being able to do your trips for you. So where, you know, you're just like, Alexa, where can I go in July? And then Alexa's going to give you options. So you're booking stuff there. And I understand that. I understand that there is a convenience behind it. I understand all of their pros. But then again, I mean, the value that a face-to-face advisor, the depth of knowledge that comes along with it, and the level of personalization and authenticity, because eventually Alexa's gonna scan information on the internet. Am I correct?
Yeah, of course. It's just going. Right? If it's making a trip, it's taking that voice, going to an API, and effectively making that booking on the GDS anyway.
Right. So then, Gavin, what about experiences which are not there online? Who do you go to for those then, right?
Yeah, but that's why if you have that ability to do that a video, you know, it's a call, but it's a video call, and you have that discussion, and you can and that's where it works, because you know, I think
I think that's a fab people want to. I think I'm gonna take this up because I've been wanting to sort of have more of a tech footprint for Vilasa. I mean, we do have a website, we have an Instagram, but a more integrated. I mean, I would love all of it to be there in one place, where it's just super convenient. So you can look at what we do, who we are. You can talk to us, email us, text us, video call us, and we're there. So I think, Gavin, I'm going to take you up on that.
I know. I tell you, if you want it all unified, just go and have a look at Zoho. It puts it all together, man, for not a lot of money. And I really like how Nikunj knows me. I'm always on about it, but you know I really like the philosophy. It's still a private company. They go and pick.
Never raised funding.
Yeah. 60. They go and get 16 and 17-year-olds out of school, and they pay for them to go through coding training, and then they bring them into the business. And actually, I read the other day they're now looking at stopping, you know, urbanization, meaning you live out in a rural area or a smaller city. Actually, we should be pushing our offices out there so that they don't have to travel in.
Absolutely.
And so, I like their philosophy around stuff. Their customer service is good, and I think their products are. You know what? There's compromises in any technology, but I think their stuff is good. But I just really like how the ethics and how the business works, as opposed to, you know, yes, there's Microsoft and whatever, those kind of things. I just like it, and I go, you know what? It works, and I don't mind paying them. That's not a lot of money. It's not about it. But actually, once you understand more about the business, you become a bit more attached. And it's one of the reasons why I promote it, is because I like how they do business.
And I think one thing good about Zoho is, like, you know, they're not that even expensive. Like, they're quite like, you know, affordable, right? I use their CRM. I use their forms, like, you know, on the website. Like, if you go to my website, like, all the forms are from Zoho. right? They're connected to CRM. They get connected to CRM like effortlessly, just with one click.
Yeah.
Right.
So we run on
email
Zoho
integration.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ditto.
So we run Zoho 1,
exactly.
and the license, it's a user license. And when we looked at how we first found out about it, we were looking. We needed a CRM, we needed a service desk, and we spoke to Salesforce. They wanted $5,000.
Yeah.
We looked at Zoho 1, 40 application platform.
Exactly.
For £360 a year plus VAT per license.
Exactly.
So now the business, I have a Microsoft 365 license for Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, but we run everything on Zoho. We use the email client, it runs and everything, as you said, is integrated.
Yeah.
When you buy different products, there's issues with integration. Yeah, you just click, and once it's there, and everything just runs across it.
Exactly.
I think what you need to do is you need to cut out this piece about Zoho and send it to the Zoho team. You need to send it to the Zoho teams. I think this is probably such a serendipity.
Yeah. I'll probably create an IGTV and tag Zoho on this, and probably Girisha as well, so that you can see that.
I imagine people from India and UK talking about Zoho and how happy a UK citizen is about the company that's built in India.
Yeah, man.
That's true.
And their customer service is good too.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first time I talked to you, Gavin. I think we talked on Zoho Meet only, Zoho call.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was 3-4 months back. I saw the news that Nikunj, you shared about your partnership, and I was like, okay, this seems like an interesting company. I should also talk. So that's when actually we got connected. That's interesting. So
and so you get that conference calling, you get all that kind of stuff included for £30 a month. It's just crazy.
That's true. So coming to the one of the key segment, and which is probably the last segment in the podcast, which is the future you want to live in, right? I'm sure there are a lot of listeners who probably are trying to do something in travel or etc. Right? What is that? What are those 2 points? Quick 2 points on what is the future that you want to live in, and one key advice for all the fellow entrepreneurs who are trying to do something or trying to live in the current normal. We'll start with you, Gavin. You are the most senior person here.
Oh, thanks. The future I want to live in is, I suppose, going to be different to where we are now. And, I think a bit more, not as polarized on the geopolitical perspective, I think will be key. And, we just have to put more empathy for people and see how that plays out. And it's sort of out of our control, but within our control. So I'm not so sure. And if you're thinking of building something in travel, just because you think it's inconvenient for you doesn't mean it's going to be a product and someone's going to buy it.
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot, especially in the leisure world.
Yeah.
Someone didn't like something and now they want to build something because they think this is going to change the world, and it won't. Don't waste your money. Find something else to do.
That's true. That's true. Coming to you, Ruhani. Quick 2 pointers.
Yeah.
The future and one key advice.
Okay, so I think the future I would like to live in would be where we're traveling in a way, keeping in mind a lot of the people that we're impacting alongside it. So we're creating a positive impact on, let's say, the locals, while we're also looking at things like our carbon footprint. I don't like the word sustainability so much because it's become a fad word now. So everybody just throws it around like it's confetti. So just a more holistic view of travel where we're making a positive impact while we're traveling. And my advice to people who are listening in, who probably want to start a career in travel: create value, yes, but share value. Sharing value is equally important. And don't be afraid to shake the table. Go for it.
That's nice. Coming to you, bro.
So I'm going to say something not specifically to travel, but then as to what my experience has been in this lockdown months. What I think the future should be is that I learned a couple of things in COVID, that these kind of strict lockdowns really bring out something very different in you, and stuff that you thought you didn't have time to do before, you could actually do. So what I think is there should
like
be
washing
a
the
future,
dishes in the lockdown.
No. No, what I think there should be is that I have seen a couple of people talk about this, I think in the US, but I really want that to happen, that maybe the governments should start introducing 1 month of compulsory lockdown of everything at least once in a year. Like a December month should be total lockdown, and I think maybe we have more time for our families. We have we could do things that we thought we did in April, and the advice which I think I would give is, in that free month which you get, think of a way that think of an idea maybe that you can come up with that will disrupt your own current business itself, because what happens I've seen is that, as I firstly said about the uncertainty part of it, this uncertainty, it came in such a big way, but what if, after a year again it comes back? And when what we realize in such uncertainties, that if we have planned for such things, we are better off. So I'm sure there are tons of advices you can give us, patience and persistence, but I feel with this COVID happening, I think these two things I can take as a new sort of takeaways as to what the advices could be. Yeah.
I'm sure. And I think one thing that I believe in, irrespective whatever technological advances we actually go through in future, etc. I think one of the best future versions will be when, because see, not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone wants to run a business. I think a lot of people are pretty happy in doing or working at a company where they are, and they want to excel in that. So I think one of the best versions of future that I can imagine is where people actually seek what you can say emotional happiness than just physical gains, right? I think that will be one of the best future versions that we can actually look for or hope for. And I think one of the key advices that people can have, as rightly mentioned by all of us, just you have time, probably right now is the time to make the most out of your own life. You doesn't necessarily have to actually just learn something. Probably you can just acquire a life skill, or probably just talk to few people, and if you're going through something, talk to your friends and etc. I think that's one thing I'll actually mention. Alright, everyone, that was the episode 3 of TVV Show. Thank you for listening, and I hope you liked the episode. Do like, share, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with everyone possible, your friends and colleagues. And keep listening, guys. Keep innovating. Thank you.